Good morning, or whatever time of day it is that you're watching this. Today I want to talk about how I'm going to grade. And since this applies to both U.S. History 1 and 2, I'm going to use the rubric that I'm going to be using for both courses as my demonstration point. But I'm going to be referring to both of you because both of you at this point in time in the discussion seem to be having trouble with this whole concept of citation. So first I want to go into the class itself. I'm using 2111, but the same thing is true in 2112, and that you have this learning module APA information and discussion rubric right here. And it's going to give you information on how to do APA. Like the very first thing you see in this is going to be an actual example of how to cite the textbook. It's right there. While you are reading along or writing along and you use any idea from the textbook, and specifically any quote from the textbook, then this is the form that you're going to be using for your internal citation. And I realize that some of you may not be understanding what I mean by internal citation. Internal citation is that literally in-text citation at the end of any and every sentence where you use information from any of your required sources. And I'm going to point out that you are required to use several sources in the course of these discussions. Your textbook, any videos that they give you, anything that is in that module should be used in referring to that discussion answer. So this is your in-text citation right here, Corbett et al., which I've tried to give you examples of because our textbook is written by Corbett and two other people, or edited mainly by them, the date, and then the page number. And this is your what I refer to as the parenthetical or in-text citation. This is your cited citation for this source. So it's right there for you. It's already done. All you really got to do is copy and paste it. But it is right there. So these are how you're going to be doing your citations for your textbook, and then also you'll be included in here any other citations, any other sources that you're required to use in those discussions, whether it be crash course videos or sections from the Georgia Encyclopedia or Encyclopedia Britannica or anywhere else. This is where you're going to use them. All right. So this is one example. There's an actual APA 6th edition form, which you may use, where I think APA is actually at the 7th edition now, but I'm fine with either one. You can download this. It gives you all kinds of examples of how to cite all kinds of things, including videos and anything else that you don't have a citation form for. And the big thing with citation is to remember that whatever the first thing in your parenthetical insertion is, which should be the author or producer's name, last name, it should match directly to your works cited entry. That's how the reader finds them. I have also in this module included my how and when to cite, where I give you also specific examples. So if you need even more examples of how and when to cite, you may go to this. Right? And like I said, for me particularly, when to cite is a little more important at this stage than how to cite. I need for you to know how to cite by the end of the course, but more important than that is knowing when to cite. And I'm telling you this now because as of discussion 2, the second discussion you do, which for my US 1 course is the one that ends today, Saturday, for the 2112 course is the one that's going to end on Tuesday. If you don't have internal citation, you're getting a 0 because that is de facto plagiarism, which I keep trying to put in my comments to you. I don't see any citation. That's de facto plagiarism, and plagiarism is a flat 0. So at this point in time, if I've made that comment in your discussion, or if I make that comment in your discussion as of discussion 2, your grade for that discussion is going to be a 0. So you want to repost that post with your citation in it. All right, everybody clear on that? Good. Now, where we are otherwise with how I grade is that I want to talk about the rubrics because your discussions do have rubrics. Now, you should have seen that in discussion 1 when I returned your discussions. I graded them yesterday, so they should be in there. The rubric that I'm going to be using is one that I have created. So I'm going to go to discussion 2, and we're going to look at the discussion rubric itself. And this is the discussion rubric I'm going to be using for both courses, so you should understand it as it is. All right, so there are now two sections for your top post. The first one is general knowledge, and general knowledge is described right here. All comments and answers in your original post and any responses to classmates include specific points and details. Comments and answers are well organized and supported. And by supported, what we mean, and I've been trying to point this out to you as we go along, that means giving literal quotes from your required sources, all of them, and or paraphrasing, but also using that citation. So you want specificity in this. You want to demonstrate to me that you are smarter than AI. And you do this by actually processing the information that you're reading from all of your required sources. Comments and answers make clear references to the readings, and this is again those examples, but it's also here the citation. Quotes and paraphrases from textbook and or other sources should be cited in APA parenthetical citations. That's what I just went over at the introduction of this video. They should be 250 to 300 words long. Now that's a minimum. That's not a maximum. That's a minimum. And then your peer comments should be at least 50 to 100, if not more. Now, I have broken this down into 5 categories. Your excellent category for general knowledge is 25 points or an A. Satisfactory would be a B. That's 21 points. Basic, which would be your C level, 18 points. And then anything below that is this. And again, by the time we get to the second discussion, if you don't have that in-text citation, your grade's going to be 0 because you've effectively plagiarized. The second category I put in here is critical thinking. This really is where you have to be smarter than AI. With your critical thinking, support should be given from all of the required sources for the week, which means whatever you see in that module, you need to have quotes from all of it. If it's crash course, you need to have your textbook quotes in there too. If it's, or you need to have quotes from it in there or references to it in there. If it's the textbook, definitely you need references there as well. You can't just get away with using one of the sources required. You need to be using all of them. And again, the same thing in terms of the point values across and in terms of the number of words, both in the top post and the peer comment. All right, grammar seems to be pretty self-explanatory, but I am going to make a few key points in here, one of which is, again, you got to have those citations in there, in text and your work cited. Everything needs to be cited in the format, APA, that's in that module. Then you have, and I like this in this rubric, 2 different categories for your 2 peer responses. Now, I'm running into a lot of this in your peer responses. Telling somebody, oh, hey, great, I agree with you. No, that's a 0. That doesn't tell me anything. Your peer comments are there to give you the opportunity to talk about something you did not talk about in your top post. They are there to give you the opportunity to demonstrate a wider and broader understanding of the materials in ways that you may not have been addressed in the question itself. Because again, this is a whole module. This is a lot of information. So this is your opportunity to add more stuff to it. The total of your peer comments, if you're doing 2, is 40 points. So it is 40% of your grade. So not having those peer comments in there means that if you get absolutely 100% on the top post, you're going to make 60. Think about that. If you are not doing 100% on the top post, which it is rare for me to give 100% because I think everything can be done better, then you're going to fail that discussion. Now, granted, you only need 1 discussion grade per module, and I will track those and enter your highest one, but you still need to be learning how to do this, which is why it's so important in these first couple of weeks you really nail down this whole issue with citation, because no matter how good your answer is, if you've plagiarized it, it's a 0. All right, so in these, again, you want your peer comments to be substantive. You want them to have new information that you did not include in your top post. You want them to add ideas to the person to whom you're responding, or, and here's the thing, I'm going to try to respond to every one of your discussion posts. The questions I'm going to ask you are questions that have to do with things I think you either didn't have in the top post or things you could have expanded on the top post to make your point stronger. So answering me And being as thorough as you can with as much citation and example as you can is going to elevate those grades markedly. So be sure you think about that. And answering me counts as a peer comment. I am one of your peers. So bear in mind that when you're doing your discussions, go back and look at your top post and see who responded to it. And if I responded to it and I ask you a question, you need to answer those in order to get your grade value up for the discussion overall. All right, I think that's it for how I plan to grade. Pretty much everything else you have is in quiz form, and that is automatically graded. If you have a question about your quiz grades, you can email me and ask me, and I will look at it and see if I think that perhaps you were more right than what the answer itself was, because some of these answers are pretty auto-generated. I did not set up the quizzes. If I had, they'd all be essay quizzes, so there's that. But in terms of discussion, which is key for me, you need to be really thorough and demonstrate a really solid understanding of this material, and you need to use all those sources and cite them. And you need to be smarter than AI, because if an AI can do this, then, why are we here, right? All right. If you have questions about this video, let me know. I will be going along soon and adding videos addressing the discussions themselves. So if you have specific questions, definitely let me know.